Protect our queens.
They told me Asia Wilson wasn't marketable, bro.
Do you practice this? Was this spur of the moment?
Is Juju Watkins better than Caitlin Clark? I feel like people have been saying that already.
I mean, there's the argument that she was the best point guard as a rookie last year.
I still think Enrique is a better basketball player than Sabrina Ionescu is.
Napheesa Collier is unstoppable right now.
Maybe, just maybe, Napheesa Collier is breathing down her neck. Asia Wilson knows it too.
Woo!
Looky, new intro. Look at what happens when I leave for a week. Martin just gets busy. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Protect Our Queens podcast. If you've been here before, if not, welcome to the Protect Our Queens podcast presented by Basketball Society. With me, I would say as always, but it's been a little bit since we've been together. But with me as always, normally, my brother in Christ, my partner in women's basketball crime, Martin Sories. My guy. It's good to be back. It's been a minute since the two of us have been on screen at the same time talking.
Yeah, man. Good to have you back, man. You're off gallivanting around the great state of Texas. Having a good old time.
Yeah, there was some
good to have you back, man. If you were a loyal viewer of and consumer of Protect Our Queens, you would have seen that new intro last week, sir.
I was gallivanting around the state of Texas.
Yeah, you were.
Cut me some slack here. You got to turn 22. You got to celebrate it in style. So, that's what we did. Did some celebrating, took some pictures, met some people, ate some tacos, real good tacos, actually.
Oh.
It's, the thing about, I know this every time I go down south. There are certain places that you can eat down south that like just don't exist up here. And I so much. Like we went to this really great taco spot. Probably had the best tacos I've ever had in my life. Awesome. Had Jack in the Box for the first time. I got a burger, 2 tacos, and fries for $13. You think you get a burger, 2 tacos, and fries for $13 up here? Are you serious? Like,
the South is different, bro. The South is different. Houston has great food, man. That's a great food city.
Oh, we went to this barbecue spot.
Ooh, I meant to ask if you got some barbecue,
bro. I had this brisket sandwich, bro.
Ooh.
I
changed your life.
Oh, some good brisket, brother. Let me tell you that. We show up lines wrapped around the establishment.
Wow.
Oh man, we got to go back.
Wow. Texas barbecue, man. That's a staple, man. Texas gives great food all around Texas, man.
Great food, bro. It was a great time all the way around, and we'll be going back next year. So can't wait.
Nice.
As I mentioned before, if you are just tuning in to Protect Our Queens for the first time, first of all, we appreciate you for tuning in. Hopefully this won't be your last. And if you're new to Protect Our Queens, Martin and I just want to let you know what we like, who we are and what we're about, right? Martin Sories is a guy who's played basketball before on all the levels you could possibly think of. And I'm a guy who loves basketball. I've loved basketball for a long time. And if you are here for Protect Our Queens, not only is this a place where you can be, if you're new to women's basketball, if you've been here for a while, whatever the case may be, but this is a place where we're going to see and be able to engage in a lot of fun, intellectual and thoughtful, meaningful conversations about women's basketball. We're not just here to say the hot takes to get clicks. We're actually here to dissect the game, to discuss the game, and to do so in such an honest way. And so if you are tuning in with us for the first time, we appreciate you, and we hope that this is a good first impression so that you can hopefully subscribe and come back next time. On that same wave, I indulged in a bit of a conversation last night, and I did tell Martin I was going to do this before you hop into the show. I saw someone on TikTok react to, and I'll need to do a completely separate episode about this, probably by myself in the coming days. So be on the lookout for that. But I saw someone rip Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe a new one for some comments that they made about Caitlin Clark not being present, and how there's been people who have been saying, oh, they want their money back and all this other stuff. And there's a bunch of people in the comments of this TikTok video just flat out saying that like women's basketball wasn't entertaining before Caitlin Clark, and the WNBA wasn't entertaining before Caitlin Clark. And like, I hate to be this guy, and I tweeted this from the page earlier, and I'm going to say it again. I need everyone who is here because of Caitlin Clark to understand that without the legends of previous iterations of the WNBA, there would be no Caitlin Clark. Like, I feel like a lot of the newer fans of the WNBA forget that. Like, okay, the WNBA is more popular. Women's basketball is more popular. Absolutely. Right. That doesn't mean it wasn't entertaining previously. That doesn't mean it wasn't awesome, to use Megan Rapinoe's word previously. It just means it's more awesome and it's more entertaining and it's more exciting. But to say that nobody was watching the WNBA before Caitlin Clark, when Caitlin Clark was watching the WNBA before she became Caitlin Clark, it's just it's just illogical to say that. And like I said, I will be doing like a separate thing on this in the coming days to fully flesh out my thoughts, my opinions on this, and fully react. But I just wanted to say that at the top of the show, as we get into what's going to be another 30 or so minutes of just honest basketball conversation. I didn't want us to get into that without at least getting that off my chest first, because it was sitting on me kind of heavy this morning, just reading through all my TikTok comments and all my mentions about people just telling me over and over again that women's basketball wasn't entertaining before Caitlin Clark showed up, because that's just factually incorrect.
Yeah, and it's what we've talked about this before with Caitlin Clark fans, people who are becoming fans of the WNBA women's basketball as a result of Caitlin Clark. It's like once you show up, it's like people like us have used the phrase late to the party, because there was a party going on before Caitlin Clark. Now, I know, like you said, the league's way more popular than ever. And a lot of people push back on that to say, well, if it was entertaining before, how come? Because being hyperbolic and saying nobody was watching is just rude and wrong. Right. But in saying that, what they're saying is a lot of people weren't watching, which is true. And nowhere near as many people that are watching now, which is true. But again, what I push back on is say, so you're telling me Maya Moore wasn't entertaining, wasn't high level elite basketball. You're telling me Candace Parker wasn't. Now you can talk about popularity and ratings, and you can make the argument that they weren't as entertaining because they didn't get the attention that Caitlin has drawn the WNBA. But I would then push back and say, think about the product of the times. No social media, right? We know how big of a factor social media is in so many things, in blowing things up online and in society right now. And those great players of the past, you don't think if there was social media when Cheryl Miller was playing, there would be people it would have been a different response nationally and internationally. I just think you have to consider those factors. And for genuine people who I talk to, I'm we're in comments, we're in debates, we got all kinds of weird people, but also good, humble, genuine, respectful people who love the game, who will show up and say, hey, I'm new because of Caitlin Clark. I really started watching because of Caitlin Clark. But they show up and they look around and they're like, oh, wait, Marina Mabry, Kelsey Plum, Paige Beckers is here now. I got all these different Arike. You've got all these different players and styles and talents to appreciate. Some people just think that Caitlin is just that much better and just that much more entertaining than everybody else. But the people who can really appreciate and know the game and love the game, even with Caitlin out, they're still watching because they realized even though they're new, they're like, man, I did not realize there was this much talent here. And it's fine to admit that. It's fine.
It is. I didn't want to take us off on a tangent, but I just wanted to address that super quickly as we're talking about, wanting to make sure that we're all on the same page, just about like what Protect Our Queens is and what we're about. Like I said, I will be doing a separate thing on that in the coming days, but we do have a couple of things to talk about today. And we're going to start that conversation off by talking a little bit about the Atlanta Dream and how they've started off to the season. But in order to do that, we have to go back to a clip of Martin talking about Allisha Gray.
Allisha Gray is really good. Allisha Gray is really good. And honestly, look no further than All-Star Weekend. Wasn't she All-Star?
She won everything.
Won the skills.
She won everything.
Look no further than that to see how good Allisha Gray really is at basketball.
She played great in the Liberty series as well. I mean, they got dog walked, but she played great in that series, in those two games as well.
Allisha Gray is fresh off of winning or being named Eastern Conference Player of the Week for her performance last week. The Atlanta Dream have been off to a dreamy start, to say the least. Going back to something that Martin said at the beginning of the season, we did our preview. He expected them to finally be competitive this season, and they have been just that so far through the first couple of games of the season here. Martin, given how, not just how good Allisha Gray has been, but how good the Dream have been overall. I mean, Rhyne Howard just dropped 33 the other night, if I remember correctly. What do you expect Atlanta's ceiling to be this season? How far do you think they can go?
Yeah, Allisha Gray, first time in her career, she's won Conference Player of the Week. She's put up crazy numbers. I think that they're showing they can be a playoff team. And I know we're going to talk about the duo of Allisha Gray and Rhyne Howard, and you have a really interesting take to make in regards to that. But But I think again, they can be a playoff team for sure. But I think the biggest story here is the fact that Allisha Gray is a lot of us are really high on Rhyne Howard, including me. And I've said on this show multiple times that I'm waiting for the former #1 overall pick in 2020 to really show what she can do from a talent perspective. There have been flashes. We all see it. Her shooting, her offense, her size, her length. She's a really unique talent. And I've been really waiting for her to break out. That clip that we just played of me saying how good Allisha Gray is, that was on the heels of us doing one of our top 10 player rankings in the WNBA. Rhyne Howard has not been on my top 10 yet, but I've wanted her to be. I want her to earn that. Like, she hasn't been a top 10 player. I want her to be undeniably a top 10 player because she has that talent. Why I brought up Allisha Gray in that conversation too is because, like I said, she's really good. And I was saying that I would love to see her get more potential consideration as a top 10 player because she keeps showing us how good she is. And look at what she's doing this season. I think we've gotten to the point now where Allisha Gray might have been the one that we should be talking about more and putting a little more stock in. Not that Rhyne Howard isn't still the unique talent and still has that potential, but Allisha Gray, having been in the league, this is her 9th season. She's been in the league longer. She has more experience, but she keeps showing us more of what she's able to do. And from an offensive standpoint, she's their best guard. And it's gotten to a point where her elevating has now elevated Atlanta in a way that I thought Rhyne needed to elevate in order to elevate Atlanta. So it's an interesting conversation and thing now because, listen, even in the MVP conversation, I said Kelsey Plum. I made a take in our preview that Kelsey Plum would be an MVP candidate. I might have had the wrong lefty guard. Allisha Gray might need some consideration for MVP. The way that she's playing this year, averaging over 20 a game, not only taking one more shot. So far through, I think they played 7 or 8 games, only taking one more shot per game than she took last year. And she's averaging 6 more points, shooting over 40% from 3. Like, I mean, man, she is like that. And that's, I mentioned in the clip, look no further. What she put on display, it's not often that you see someone do something during All-Star weekend that has an effect on how you view them in the grand scheme of things in the regular season and so forth. But for Allisha Gray to win, was she All-Star MVP? Wasn't she MVP of the All-Star game? I know she won 3-point and the skills challenge.
She won the skills challenge.
Wasn't she MVP of the All-Star game too? Like, that's really rare. And that was a clear signal that, hey, maybe we should be looking at Allisha Gray more as like in her skill set and her talent. And like, it's all coming out right now. And I think that head coach and the way that they're playing is benefiting her even more than I thought it might benefit Rhyne Howard.
For sure. And I mean, listen, I told you this on the phone, last week before I left. And I told you that I was going to want to talk about this because you're right? Allisha Gray has been off to a fiery start, and Rhyne Howard has had a strong start to the season as well. I'm right there with you. I think I did put her at the very first top 10 we ever did on the show. She wasn't my top 10 simply because I thought she had the talent to be there. She hasn't played like it, which is why she hasn't been on one since. But I told Martin before I left last week that with the way that the Dream have been playing, I feel like Allisha Gray and Rhyne Howard are the WNBA's Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in a bunch of different ways. I think the main one comes back to something that Martin just said, right? It feels like we should be paying a little bit more attention to Allisha Gray, and maybe she's the best player on this team instead of Rhyne Howard. And that's a conversation that people have been having between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum for a very long time. I mean, you can me personally, I would date it back to as soon as Kyrie left Boston. That's kind of when that conversation kind of started of, okay, we kind of are assuming that Jason Tatum's the best player because, he was the one that was going head up with LeBron James in the conference finals that year. And he's the one that's, getting all the love. But Jaylen Brown is really, really good. And we see, obviously, last season when they won the championship, Jaylen Brown wins Finals MVP. That obviously fuels that conversation. But as I was sitting here and I was really starting to flesh this out and really start to think about, what are the comparisons between Allisha Gray and Rhyne Howard and, of course, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, it almost just with looking at this Dream roster, you can almost kind of make a comparison to this entire new look Dream roster to who the Boston Celtics at least were last season. We might not see them like this again, but you think about, okay, Allisha Gray is the Jaylen Brown, I think. A very talented guard who can also play on the wing, who can score and defend, and doesn't really get a lot of credit maybe that a lot of people feel that she deserves, right? Then you go to Rhyne Howard. Rhyne Howard's not a forward the way that Jason Tatum is. She is a big guard, though. But again, she is a player who, much like Jason Tatum, is known for her scoring, can be inefficient at times. But the big thing with Rhyne Howard is, even if the shot's not falling, much like Jason Tatum, she's able to do other things, crash the boards, facilitate, and again, play good defense. Something that a lot of people, when you look at what Jason Tatum was doing in the finals last season, when people say, oh, Jason Tatum laid an egg in the finals, well, we said that not because he didn't play well, because he wasn't shooting the ball well, wasn't scoring as efficiently as we're used to, or as at such a high clip as we're used to seeing. And so we just assumed Jason Tatum wasn't playing well. Rhyne Howard's had a couple games this season where she's, dished out 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10 assists simply because the shot wasn't falling. Her ability to do the other things that, can help this team win is very underrated, much like Jason Tatum. I think even back to the clip, I forgot after which game it was, but someone had asked her what it was, was like to have the defensive performance that she had. And she said, I do this. Like, I do this. I've been like that. Like, this isn't anything new. Yeah, like this defense thing. So again, she's not known for her defense, much like Jason Tatum, but they can play defense. But then you take a look at the supporting cast around them. You take a look at a player in Brittany Griner who, before this season, wasn't shooting that many threes. Now, all of a sudden, with the new head coach, they want her to shoot, I believe, 3 or 4 threes a game. She's starting to expand her range a bit. I think she can be the Kristaps Porzingis of this team, right? A big who is dominant down low, a little bit more dominant down low, obviously, than Kristaps Porzingis. Not nearly the shooter that KP is, obviously, but she's starting to add that a bit to her game. And in this new system, it can work for her. I look at Bree Jones and I see Al Horford. Yeah. No one thinks that Al Horford is like the most demonstrative player in the game, but what he does matters for the Celtics. And in that same way, what Bree Jones does matters for this Atlanta Dream team. Her game is very quiet, if you will. It's very soft, but it's also straightforward. She's a double threat every time she's on the floor. She crashes the boards hard. She can shoot in the mid-range. She's effective down low. And then you get to Jordan Canada, who we haven't seen play much this season because she's been dealing with a bit of injury. And I think Jordan Canada is the Derek White of this team. She is. I think, and I told you this before, when she gets back healthy, I think that's really when the Atlanta Dream are going to start to really hit their stride and really start to kick it up a notch, because I don't expect Allisha Gray to slow down once Jordan Canada gets back. And I actually think her presence will be even more beneficial for Rhyne Howard to continue to develop into what we hope is a top 10 player. Not nearly the caliber of defender as Derek White, I would say, but still not nothing to sneeze at defensively as well. I am not in any means with this comparison saying that the Atlanta Dream are going to win the championship this season. And I'm not even saying they're going to make it to the finals this season. What I am saying, though, is that when you look at the construction of the Atlanta Dream roster and you look at their players and what they all do well, and you compare it to the Boston Celtics, there are a lot of strong comparisons to make between the two. And I think with the new head coach and this system that's clearly working for them, not only can they be competitive finally, as Martin alluded to at the top of the season, but maybe, just maybe, we could see them, if all things go right and the matchups are, in their favor, maybe they do make a deep run in the playoffs. And then maybe we're looking at them as a championship contending basketball team next season. But this started with me just saying that Allisha and Rhyne are the WNBA's Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And just in kind of expanding that, I really realized that this entire starting five for the Atlanta Dream can make strong comparisons to what the Boston Celtics have right now.
I think that's good. And like, their head coach is a 3-point guy. They're shooting more threes, and we knew that coming in. And so that does check out with how Boston started to play, especially, over these last couple of years. I think Jordan Canada would more so qualify as like the Drew Holiday.
Sure.
I think they could use a Derek White. I was waiting to see where you'd go with that, but I don't think they have that fourth player like a Derek White that can go for 30 or go for 25 and hit like 5-6 threes. I don't think they have that. I think the Jaylen Brown and Tatum comparison is spot on with that duo, but I don't think they have like the core four yet. Like, I like the Bree Jones, Al Horford comparison. I like where you went with the BG thing, not exactly Porzingis, but we know she can shoot the ball. She's more of an inside player, but it's gonna be interesting because I think they're gonna keep trying to tool that roster basically in that kind of mold. But I think that's one of the key skill sets that I think they're missing is a Derek White type, a taller, which is kind of like another Rhyne Howard, almost like just another tall, long, can shoot it, can defend, two-way player. Like if they had another one of those, that's what would take them over the top. But man, I'll tell you, I think I'm glad you brought up the clip of Rhyne Howard, because to me, that's a big story within this, is that because even when you talk about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, everyone else was talking about them. Can they play together? Who's better? Who's the A? Who's the B? Who's the 1A? Whatever. They did not let that, to our knowledge at least. I mean, maybe they had to work things out amongst each other, but from afar, they worked through it. They didn't let that affect their relationship and dynamic on the court. They just kept working together and making it work. And last year, it culminated into a championship. So I think the conversation now, again, should objectively be, and it doesn't have to become this whole debate. It's just that Allisha Gray is looking like she's the better player than Rhyne Howard. And there were times, there've been times over the last couple of years where people said they felt like Jaylen Brown might be better than Jason Tatum. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is that they are committed to supporting each other. So while Allisha seems to be taking that next step offensively and looking like their best guard offensively, as you said, well, Rhyne Howard seems to be willing and committed to being like, hey, I'll show you guys I can play really good defense. I may not be the top scorer on this team. I may not be the one we're going through. Allisha may be playing better than me offensively. And just like with Tatum and Brown, Rhyne Howard is going to have her moments offensively. You can't just discount her. It's not like she's just giving up her offensive abilities. They're still there. She's still going to, you mentioned she had a 30-point game recently. So the fact that they have two guards, two wing players that can be prolific and explosive offensively, and they're both committed to the defensive end, that really is what makes that comparison check out. And that's what's giving them such a really unique, interesting look right now. But I think Rhyne Howard deserves a lot of credit for showing and communicating hey, I'm gonna show you guys that I can do this defense thing. I'm not just the player who broke the record for fastest one to make 100 threes in the WNBA before Caitlin got here. I'm not just the 3-on-3 FIBA, all-star. I do many things to impact winning. And I think she's showing that she can do that this season. And that makes me just as impressed with Rhyne Howard as I would be if she was out here looking like a top 5 player in the WNBA.
And last thing I'll say on Rhyne Howard is, you look at the numbers, her efficiency isn't where it's at. She's shooting below 30% right now, and she's shooting below 35% from the field. If you look at just the numbers, she's averaging 5 assists right now this season through 5 games or 7 games, which is a career high for her. She's on pace to average a career high in points per game as well. And she's on pace to average somewhere around 2 steals per game, which is a career high as well. So even though she's not out here dropping 20 and 25-point games left and right, she's still doing all the little things. Yeah. And like you said, there are going to be moments when they need Rhyne Howard to have a big game. And we know that Rhyne Howard is capable of having those big games, which is why I think, again, Jordan Canada being reintroduced to this lineup when she's back and healthy, I think is what could be the thing they need to really start to hit their stride even more, because it's going to be another one of those 3-guard lineups that it's going to be really dynamic, with Allisha Gray's scoring ability and her defensive ability, with Rhyne Howard's scoring ability and her defensive ability, with Jordan Canada's scoring ability and her playmaking ability and the defense that she brings as well. That's going to be a nice 5-person lineup. I know that we talked about, I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but I know that we talked about a couple weeks ago how the Seattle Storm might have one of the more efficient and one of the best 5-person lineups in the league right now. Jordan Canada comes back. I think that starting 5 of Canada, Gray, Howard, Jones, and Griner, those 5 are going to be, when we look back on the most efficient lineups and the best lineups with whatever metric you want to look at come season's end, they're going to be towards the top of that list, because I think that's, again, with this new system that their head coach has brought in now, it's really, really working for them. I think it's only going to get better.
I think they're the real dark horse. I think so far early in the season, they're showing they're going to be the real dark horse. We talked about LA, Phoenix, right? Teams with potential. Seattle has you just brought them up. They're starting to show hey, we're going to be competitive. But I think what we're seeing from Atlanta is showing they're going to be they're going to be a dangerous out. They're the real dark horse here.
Absolutely. Before we switch gears and talk a little about the Chicago Sky, let's hit the comments real quick.
What's up, y'all? What's up?
He's telling me to go to Cali so I can learn some legit. I'd love to go to California, not for the next.
Is that where Ghost is? Is that where you tune in from, bro? Are you in California?
That's a good question. Are you from California, bro?
We never knew that.
Political Low said that's not a bad analogy. Allisha Gray is one of the best cards out there. Absolutely.
It's a fact.
Chicago.
I want to say something about that quickly too before we transition.
Chicago Cheetah said, I think the Atlanta Dream is actually a contender. Listen,
I'm not putting it past them.
Absolutely not. I think when we look at All-Star break and we take a look at the teams that are going to contend, obviously New York and Minnesota is going to be in that conversation. With the way that you mentioned it, LA not starting the season at all how we thought they would.
Yeah.
The Storm started off great. They've dropped a couple the last bit, but I think Atlanta will definitely be in the thick of it for sure. Hit the like since you all ears. Please, if you are enjoying the conversation, hit the likes. Great conversation, thought-provoking. I think they can make a nice playoff run this year. Look, I definitely think they can make it out of the first round this year. As long as they don't match up with like the Liberty or the Lynx, I think they make it out of the first round. And I think at that point, the world is their oyster. With their talent and experience, I agree. They can make contending noise. You were going to say something about Allisha Gray before we switch over to Chicago?
Yeah, I just think if you watch Allisha Gray play, what you see is, I mean, man, she does so much well offensively. Like she's hitting, like she's a catch and she's a great 3-point shooter. Again, I can't help but go back to she won the 3-point competition. When you win the 3-point competition at All-Star Weekend, it doesn't automatically make you the best shooter in the league, NBA or WNBA, but it makes a statement that you're one of the best shooters in the league, whether people knew it or not. When you watch Allisha Gray play in these games, bro, she's not just a spot up catch and shoot 3-point shooter. She's hitting contested threes. She's hitting shots off the dribble and then finishing at the rim. Allisha Gray has a really understated and underrated in-between game and finishing game. She is really crafty, and her ability to score beneath the free throw line is really impressive. Like, she is strong. She is crafty around the rim. Like, she finds ways to score. She's tough. She's physical. Great shooting touch. Like, it's every time I watch her, I'm just even more impressed with how many things she does well to be able to score and be effective offensively.
Absolutely. I mean, and again, just going back to the defense, if she keeps this up, and I know I've already put one person on the all defensive team in Natasha Cloud. If Allisha Gray keeps this up, I think she's going to make one of the all defensive teams. I think she has
to be all league playing this way. She's going to be all league.
And she'll be all league as well.
Rhyne Howard, I think they're both committed. It's so interesting. I think you're spot on with that comparison because with the Brown and Tatum thing, they're both high-end defenders. They're both high-level defenders. I just think I feel like Allisha is taking on more of the offensive role, and it could switch up. And that's the beauty of having a duo like this. It could switch up. But, man, Rhyne might be vying for all-defense team with her commitment and with Allisha kind of carrying the load a little bit more on the offensive end she's just in a better rhythm offensively right now, I think.
Absolutely. Well, let's switch gears a bit from one duo in Atlanta who is thriving to another duo in Chicago who has a little bit of stuff to figure out. Let's go back to the beginning of the season. We were doing our preview of the season when Martin had this to say about the Chicago Sky.
I think they'll be a little bit better offensively, probably about the same defensively. But the key is Kamilla and Angel being fully healthy. They didn't have a fully healthy season together last year. In year 2, both of them fully healthy. With these new guards, with Rebecca Allen in there, with a couple veterans they've added, I just think they have a more complete team. I think they have a better chance. It really is a lot on Angel to just be that much better in year 2. I think that she is their best player, their most important player. And so she does have to take a leap.
Chicago Sky currently, they do have 2 wins on the season. They started the season winless. They do have 2 wins on the season, but things are not looking as well or as sunny as people may have thought it looked. We're going to look heading into the season. How, Martin, can the Chicago Sky turn their season around and at least make the playoffs?
Their 2 wins are both against Dallas in back-to-back games, and one of them Paige didn't even play. She played in the first game. But I am starting to look at, in those 2 wins, and listen, they scored over 90 points, and this is a team that does not have a lot of offensive firepower. And even against Dallas, which is not some gaudy defensive team right now. We're still able to score over 90 points. So I look at that and I watch some of the games. I watched some film, looked at the numbers. I think the main number I'm looking at for Chicago, and I think this is what Tyler Marsh is now looking to really emphasize with this team, is their assists. Their most recent win, 20 assists on 30 field goals made. The win before that, the game before that against Dallas, it was like 28 assists on 37 field goals made. They've got to have a high assist number. When you have a team that does it by committee, that doesn't have any one sole or even like a few sole go-to scorers and offensive weapons, you've got to pass the ball. You've got to do it with the pass. It's got to be shared. It's got to be a little bit of everybody. That's the only way. Now we could go a little more drastic, and I have maybe a thought on they might need to make a trade. I mean, it's not looking good at all. It's why I was really hesitant with my take that they could be a dark horse finals contender. But I knew things needed to happen. What I said at the end of that clip was the biggest thing for me. Angel would need to take a year 2 leap. And I said she could be their best player. I think she's their most important player. I think now Ariel Atkins is showing she's actually their best player. Kamilla could be their best player at times, but like overall, objectively, I'm saying Ariel Atkins is their best player, but Angel's the most important player. You just can't get around it. They're not going to do better unless she plays better. And if she plays better, I think they'll look a lot better. And so, one way is to keep the culture of unselfishness, do it by committee, high assist number, no one player taking too many shots unless it's Ariel Atkins, because I think she's the only one who deserves to be taking over 15 shots if that's the case. But the only way they compete, turn their season around is 1, if they continue to have a high assist rate, and 2, if Angel Reese can turn things around and just play better basketball and be more of a force like she was last year. And I mean, I think that's what it comes down to for this team. They don't have many options for turning things around.
I agree. Listen, I'm probably as big of an Angel Reese fan as it's going to get. I don't think there's many people out there who, are a fan of hers more than I am. And as a fan of a player, you got to hold them accountable for the ups and the downs. And Angel Reese so far this season has not looked good. She has not looked like the player that we saw in Unrivaled. She hasn't looked like the player that I thought she was going to be entering year 2. And there's, again, we're 7 games, 6 games into the season for them. Like, there's obviously a lot of time left in the season for this to turn around. But here's what I will say. And I understand the point about Angel being the best player or being the most important player. I do understand that. And I'm not saying I disagree with that, because I think that, despite being drafted lower, she is the franchise player. Mm-hmm. But I think at some point this season, there might need to be an adjustment made where maybe Kamilla Cardoso becomes the emphasis of this offense down low. And the reason why I say that is because Kamilla, obviously her star is not as bright as Angel Reese as far as popularity and people knowing who she is and things of nature. But as far as, what you're asking them to do down low, Camilla's better at it than Angel Reese, right? Like, at the end of the day, the name of the game is putting the ball in the basket. And Angel Reese right now is shooting 30% from the field. She, as I mentioned on the show a couple weeks ago, last time I was here, when I was here, she set a record the other day for the most misses inside of 4 feet in a single game. She had 10 in a game the other day. She, I believe, is the most blocked. I think she has as many blocks on the season as she has been blocked this season, right? There are things that Angel needs to work on. And Angel is still, despite the work in Unrivaled, despite the work with Lisa Leslie, despite, the shooting work that I see that I salivate over every time I see it, right? There is still a rawness about Angel Reese's game that needs to be cooked out, if you will. And until we get to that point, I think maybe it's time that we pivot in Chicago over to Kamilla Cardoso, a player who is taller, a player who is more efficient, a player who in their first win of the season did have 23 points and 8 rebounds and missed like 2 shots from the field. Like, it's not like Kamilla Cardoso is some scrub. I think the Chicago Sky need to realize that you drafted Kamilla 3rd overall for a reason. You didn't draft her 3rd overall to play second fiddle to Angel. And I'm not saying that they're doing that on purpose, but what I am saying, though, is that there is a reason you drafted Kamilla Cardoso 3rd overall. And so far, if you just took a random person off the street and just asked them who they thought was drafted higher, who they thought the Chicago Sky deemed was the better player, you would think it's Angel Reese. And I'm not saying that Angel's not better. I'm not saying that she won't be better. I'm saying that she can't be better. But what I am saying is you didn't draft Angel Reese 7th overall after Kamilla Cardoso and for Angel Reese to be the focal point of this offense. I'm going to steal something that Martin Sori said a little bit ago. The last time we saw Angel Reese as a focal point of the offense, it was when they won a championship with LSU in 2023. And the structure of that basketball team was not this. It wasn't, Angel didn't have another player down low, if I remember correctly, with her that could be as dominant of a post player as Angel was in college. That's not who she is. She hasn't really had that. This is new for her. And if you want this Twin Towers thing to work, you should probably play through the person who has experience playing alongside another capable post player, and that is Kamilla Cardoso. Again, I love Angel. I think Angel's great. I think Angel has a bright future ahead of her. And I think despite what the idiots online say, Angel is talented, and there are a lot of good things. There are plenty of good things that she does well. We haven't seen it consistently yet. Meanwhile, Kamilla Cardoso, with much less touches, has done a lot better so far with the touch that she gets. And I think maybe it's time that Chicago pivots and starts to emphasize that a little bit more until Angel can kind of iron things out and more specifically get out of her head. Because that's another thing, too, that I think that's not being talked about. Angel Reese has gotten in her own head trying to prove a point that, if we're being honest, the people who are fans of her, the people who are here just for the basketball, already agree with you, Angel. So to be in your own head to try to prove a point that a lot of people already agree with you on, I think that's the other issue that we're seeing with Angel Reese so far this season.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think it's just her. I don't think it's just her in her head, and I don't think it's her trying to prove a point. I think other people have gotten her head. I think the first game of the season, starting out with that Caitlin flagrant foul thing, and just all of that energy being recirculated, I feel like that. Listen, if you go into comments on Chicago Sky posts and on posts where they show the team in the locker room or in the tunnel, and you see many people in there noticing what seems pretty blatantly obvious. And I'm not saying her body language is bad or she's got a negative attitude. It's just that Angel doesn't look very happy. She just doesn't look very enthused. You see her going into the huddle and she's just like, you don't see enthusiasm. And I think many things could be contributing to that. She obviously has a lot going on off the court, just in terms of business and brand deals and all that. And so people have obviously accused her of having too much of that going on and not focusing enough on basketball. Listen, that could be a real thing. I mean, there's a lot of things that young lady is juggling and balancing and dealing with, on top of having to work on her basketball game. I mean, no one has arrived yet. She has very clear things to work on. And even, listen, one off season, I keep trying to tell people, one off season of working on stuff is not going to make you a better player.
Sure.
I mean, it'll make you better, but it's not going to make you a different player. Right. A few weeks of working out with Lisa Leslie is not going to turn you into Asia Wilson. One season at Unrivaled is not going to start taking face up jump. It's not going to turn you into a totally different person. Right. She has a lot of work to do. That rawness that you talk about, like, listen, by next year, in the next couple of years, if Angel doesn't look a little more polished, a little more smooth, like, we've seen some progress, but in the next couple of years, if we don't see tangible progress in just how she moves and operates, we will have to just start admitting that this is just who she is. She's flat-footed. She's a little awkward. She's a little raw. Like, rawness can be polished out and cooked out. As you said, it can be worked on. But it takes a lot more work to turn raw into polished. It takes a lot more. It takes like double the work on top of the work that you already need to do. Yeah. So I just think she has a lot to figure out, just a lot to figure out on and off the court. And listen, stress can be a real barrier as an athlete. Stress can be a legit barrier as an athlete. And I think she has a lot of stress, and I think it's showing. I think she still goes out there. She's out there competing. She's out there competing. But I think between the team I just think, and listen, this is the main flaw of Chicago as we've known. It's why I advocated for them doing whatever they sell, whatever souls you need to sell to try to get Olivia Miles. Heck, they should have tried to offer her a bat. They should have tried to get somebody to just put money together just to convince her to come out. It's like, we need you that bad. They need an elite guard, specifically a point guard, so badly, it's not even funny. Because even as you talk about playing through Kamilla and giving her more touches, Camilla's taking, her and Angel taking about the same amount of shots. It looks like, I think I just checked, Camilla's taking 9 shots. I think Angel's taking 10 shots. So sure, maybe get Kamilla up to over 10 shots and maybe decrease Angel shots. But what does that even look like? It goes back to what I said. Kamilla is an assist big. She's not a play through you and she makes passing reads and takes a couple dribbles and backs you. She's not a Jokic. Right. She's a dump it in, take one dribble and power up. Seal you high low over the top. What she was doing at South Carolina. It was part of my critique of Kamilla in that she's not a big, I mean, you could play through her in college because if you're 6'5" or above, you can dominate in women's college basketball. You're just bigger than everybody else. Not the case in the WNBA. And Kamilla has some work to do. If you're going to play through her more, she's got to show that you can play through her more, that she could do a little bit more in the post than just catch and finish. Angel and Kamilla are both catch and finish bigs, which means you need guards that can make and make it easier for those bigs to catch and finish. They have yet to have that kind of guard room, that kind of dynamic guard room to really get the best out of Angel and Kamilla.
Yeah, I look at Chicago, and first of all, I will say this. There was a lot of people on Twitter, and again, Twitter is a very volatile place. There are a lot of people on Twitter who were panicking because of the way that Sonia Citron was starting off her season in Washington and the way that Ariel Atkins are starting off in Chicago, being very regretful. Listen, I said when we had Mike Hughes on the show that Ariel Atkins it can do more for this team this season than Sonia Citron ever could. Not to say that Sonia Citron wouldn't do great things. Ariel Atkins, I think you sent in the group chat with me, you and Mike Hughes, that Courtney Vandersloot was their leading scorer with 9 points per game. I was like a week or so ago. Ariel Atkins is now the leading scorer with 15. So things are starting to level out a bit more. Ariel Atkins just needed time. And I think as the season progresses, we'll see Ariel Atkins be a little bit more aggressive. The thing that bothers me the most about this team, and I said this to you and I said this to Mike Hughes, is
by the way, Sonia Citron would not be saving this team right now. She's good, but like she's not the kind of guard. Like to me, Olivia Miles was the kind of guard that could turn this team into something different. Sonia Citron will probably be doing about the same thing Ariel Atkins is doing, and probably a little bit worse. She's a rookie. Like she wouldn't have come in and saved this team. Go ahead.
Right. What I'll say this is, and I said this earlier on to you, and I had some concerns. I'm going to wait it out a bit because we're still only a couple games into the season. It felt like pretty early on to the season that Tyler Marsh forgot that he wasn't in Vegas anymore and that Elijah Wilson was not walking through the door to play basketball games. It just seemed like things were a bit off. It seems like they were trying a bit too hard to play like inside out. And look, I get it. I love Kamilla. I love Angel. They're talented. And I think with improvements that you just mentioned, they can get there. But you didn't go out there and get Kia Nurse and get Courtney Vandersloot and get Ariel Atkins and get all these other guards just for them to, not do the things that you need them to do. Like, this is still one of the not so good 3-point shooting teams in the league. Now, I will say this. They are top 5 in assists per game right now. I just checked when you were talking about assists. They are top 5 in assists per game.
28 assists, 20 plus assists. They should be.
They're right behind Atlanta at like 20 and a half, I think, or something like that is what the number is. I think this team can and will turn it around. I'm not sure, though, if and I get your point that Angel's the most important and in a way has to be the best. I don't necessarily know if Angel Reese turning it around is the key. I think the key is kind of what you just mentioned at the end. Like, the guards have to be better. Like, the players that you went out there and you acquired have to be better. Ariel Atkins has to continue to be what she's been these past couple games. Courtney Vandersloot has to be whatever the best of Courtney Vandersloot is at this point in her career. Kia Nurse has to be better. Rachel Banham has to be better. Like, these players that they went out and they got to surround these young players with, they have to be better. Michaela Onyenwere, she has to be better also. We haven't really seen much from her this season. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. I'm not watching every single Chicago Sky games. I'm not sure if she's missed games or is getting a lot of minutes or anything like that. But she, for a stretch last season, was making a lot of noise. We haven't really seen that. Like, these, it's so Yes, Angel and Kamilla are important because they were your high draft picks. You know, they were your lottery ticket draft picks last season. They have to be better. But all the players that you've gone out and acquired this season to revamp this roster, to make them better, they also have to be better. And it's a combination of all those things at the end of the day. I think they'll turn it around. We're still talking about 35, 36 games left in the season for them to play. So there's plenty of time for them to figure it out. But it's Chicago. It's just in a really, really interesting spot of like, who exactly is the best player, whose development is most important. It's a really weird thing. And I think all of this would be a lot. Again, as an Angels fan, I can admit this. I do think that the discourse around the Chicago Sky, and I think that the way that we, even as honest people who talk about women's basketball, we even would be able to have a much clearer direction of what needs to improve and what doesn't if Angel Reese just was playing better.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, that is a big part of it. Angel does have to play better. And I am not ashamed to admit, as a fan of hers, despite all the things I think she does well, that so far through the first 7 or so games of the season, she has not been playing well. That's a very important piece of the puzzle. And I'm not at all dismissing that. There's a couple of comments in here, and then we'll get out of here. Let's see here. Chicago Cedar says, I think Angel Reese is the better player. I just haven't seen the want out of Kamilla Cardoso. I just hope that both of them are able to succeed side by side. I do believe it's possible. Yeah, someone else in here saying that they got Angel at the third option. Kamilla is supposed to be the first option from Jump Street. Kamilla acts like she doesn't want to be the first option. I mean, it's new.
I just don't think it's her. I don't think that's built into her skill set. She's not a Shaquille O'Neal. She's not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like she's not a scoring first big. Like she can score, but she's a catch and finish big. That's what she's been since South Carolina. So making her your first Angel or Kamilla being the first option really isn't what you want. Like I said, they're not going to be a real contender until they get like an elite guard. I thought they might be able to compete with the sum of their parts. And I think that's what I'm saying. Like, it's got to be a little bit of everybody. It's not going to be one, like even the conversation about who's their best player and again, I think Ariel Atkins has proven she's the best, but like, but that doesn't mean that they rely on her. It doesn't mean she's the end all be all. It's gotta be. So to your point, the guards do have to play. Everyone's got to play better. Everyone's got to be good. Everyone's got to be on point, and they've got to share the ball, be unselfish. Everyone averaging 15 points a game or less. And it's got to be do it by committee. That's probably not a championship formula right now. In some ways, they just got to get better players. They've got to get an elite guard in there to run with Angel and Kamilla. That's the number one thing Chicago has needed.
Yeah. Angel is getting more shots up because of the offense rebounds as a result of set plays. That's
good point.
Good point. I will mention, even with that, I don't think Angel is taking as many shots as she's taking I think last season she was around 12 or 13.
Probably 12 or 13, which again.
But again, was
by offensive rebounds and extra shots.
Rebounds. Yeah. She's at 10 right now, and I just looked at it. Unfortunately for Angel Reese, she's averaging 6 offensive rebounds a game. So one would say that 6 of the 10 shots she's taking a game is coming off of her own shots right now. And then lastly, did Chicago have an opportunity to get to 500 within the next week and a half? Taking a look at their schedule, I would say no. They play Indiana, and Indiana, even without Caitlin Clark, is still better than the Chicago Sky. They're going to get blasted by New York again, probably next Tuesday. And then they play Atlanta. If I'm being honest, I don't think we see the Chicago Sky win another basketball game until they play the Connecticut Sun on the 15th. And even then,
I think the game against Indiana without Caitlin can be a good game. I do think Indiana has the better players, but I think that becomes a better game without Caitlin there.
I don't think it will be the thrashing that it was first game of the season.
It won't be. I think that's going to be a decent game.
But I don't know if they'll get to 5. There are 2 games under 500 right now. They would have to, they'd have to win at least 2 of those 3 games, and I don't think they're going to do that. I think it'll be again, until these things kind of turn around, I think it'll be a minute before we see the Chicago Sky playing 500 level basketball. But that remains to be seen. Thank you guys for watching. As always, it is a pleasure to talk women's basketball at any time of the day, but especially early in the morning. It just gets the day started off right. If you haven't already, please make sure that you are liked up and subscribed to Basketball Society on YouTube so you don't miss any future episodes of the Protect Our Queens podcast. Also, so you don't miss any of these segments of this show that you may have missed. on the channel as well. When you're finished over on YouTube, head over to Instagram and Twitter. Follow us on Instagram at @ProtectOurQueens_. Follow us on Twitter at @POQueens_. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I will be doing something separate for Martin by myself, just on the whole Caitlin Clark entertaining women's basketball thing later on this week, or maybe early next week. So please make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss that. But until then, for my guy Martin Sories of Basketball Society, this is
OG.
Martin.
Good to see you, man. OG been in here supporting us, man. We're gonna get you some merch too, bro. I got something for you. We're gonna hook you up, bro. You've been supporting, and everyone else who've been in here supporting, Ghost, Lisa, we had Political Lil. Like we appreciate y'all. Good to see you guys.
Man. Always appreciating the conversation that we have, not just on screen but with you guys as well. And that conversation continues even after the camera is turned off. So for my guy Martin Sories of Basketball Society, this is Marcus of the Protect Our Queens podcast signing off. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, you guys enjoy yourselves some women's basketball.